Nicole Crane, and the topic for today is the difference between goddesses and queens. So I'm gonna jump right in because this is a break week for me, so this is a pre-recorded video. I have some really exciting stuff cooked up for next week though, so I'm just gonna tease that out, and that's all I'm saying because I'm gonna actually focus on the topic. So, alright, I'll start with my description of queens. So, honestly, I think that being a queen is a really excellent first step because when women start embodying queens, their whole posture changes. Like, especially for me, like when I do embodiment practices or when I do practices where I kind of verbalize on behalf of sub-personalities that I discover within myself. If it's a queenly figure, like my shoulders square up, I open my chest, I hold my chin up higher. There's something regal about my essence. So I think that if the best you have is being a queen, that is so gorgeous and so beautiful. So the downside of being a queen is, and this is the major one, is the responsibility. So I'm sure you've all heard the phrase, like, heavy weighs the crown, and it's totally true. Like, being a queen comes with a lot of responsibilities. The first one that comes to mind is taking care of your king or allowing your king to take care of you. That is a pretty heavy responsibility both ways. It's such a beautiful, exquisite, tender, vulnerable, empowering, powerful, proud responsibility to take on. Don't get me wrong. But I think that a lot of women who identify as queens have children, and that's like an unavoidable responsibility right there. And then also, if you are a queen, then you have subjects. So whether they are your helpers who assist you in your day-to-day activities, whether it's like an assistant or a submissive or, your kids, your helpful neighbor, whatever, there is a certain level of tenderness and care that you kind of have to take with your subjects in order to be in your like most powerful high feminine. And the way that most of us do this is in overgiving, which, I mean, there's a more balanced way to do that where you both receive from your subjects, but you also allow them to receive from you, whether that's gratitude, whether that's taking care of things that you have like a symbiotic relationship where it's a good fit, where they pay all the bills and take out the garbage and you make sure that the kids go to bed on time and that the house doesn't fall apart and you're the one that's like waiting around when the repair people show up and stuff like that. Or like, oh god, I have the best relationship with my best friend who is like, she could be a chef. So her repayment is my enjoyment of her food because she says that so few people really like enjoy the nuances of it. So like I'm always like trying to find the hints of different flavor combinations and just really appreciate like how they do combine and interact. It's like sensual mouth alchemy. So I think that a lot of people take her cooking for granted and they're just like scarfing it down. They're like, good job, this is great. Instead of being like, oh my god, is that rosemary? Wow. Or like, you made like this chicken with curry? Like, that's totally crazy. Like, I don't usually have curried chicken or something like that, So, and that's kind of a dumb example, but like, anyway. There are different ways that we can pay each other back. Like that, I'm not really a burner, but that's one of the most beautiful things that I've heard about the community and the like exchange that happens at Burning Man is that people aren't allowed to exchange money, and so there is like a deeper appreciation for gratitude. So I wish I could remember the source, but somebody was sharing a story about how someone receiving the gratitude was an ability for them to return something for the gift that they had received. So I wish I could remember that better, but it really hit home for me that sometimes receiving gracefully, as I like to think of it, is a gift to the other person. So if you're not able to receive a gift gracefully, it's kind of like when you were 8 and like your grandma bought you an ugly sweater and you're just like, ah! It really hurts when somebody isn't able to appreciate and receive your gift fully. So I just want to touch on for a second how important it can be to a giver for someone to fully and or gratefully receive. Yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of getting into goddess territory. Sorry, guys. I've been having like a hard time balancing my caffeine lately, and it makes me like think faster than my mouth can keep up with. But okay, so the upside of queendom is kind of like having that royal give and take. It's kind of relationship centered, and the downside is the heaviness of the responsibility. And just to touch on this for a second, I'm studying Alison Armstrong right now. I just took her Living the Queen's Code course, and I just started her Understanding Men course, which is phenomenal. If you are really interested in like how men's minds work, how women's minds work, and how to have like a more symbiotic exchange between the two genders, her work is incredible. But one thing that she really talks about, she doesn't call it women being in their masculine, but she does call it something like, oh man, it's taking responsibility for other people's situations, whether it's learning or taking care of problems or whatnot. So when we're in our high feminine, we are able to guide people, we are able to advise them, we are able to consult them, we are able to hold space for them, but we don't take on the outcome of other people's shit. So I'm going to transition to like kind of explaining my view of a goddess. So a goddess kind of like drops hints, offers help, asks people if they would be available for receiving some advice, asks permission before they coach someone or go on a big tangent about like what they should do. And then, you know, she like offers her perspective and then she kind of lets it go. She like sets it and just lets it percolate for the other person. And if they have questions, they can come to the goddess with that. Or if it doesn't resonate, then, you know, she gave fully and it is what it is. So that's more of a feminine, like a high feminine way to do things, whereas like the more masculine, over controlling way is to like take on the outcome and try to be responsible for how things work out for other people, which is not only maddening and really frustrating, it's kind of impossible because people are just going to make their own decisions and their own choices and have their own path anyway, and we can't really protect them or even really predict what that's going to look like for them. Like they could totally fuck it up and it still could like come out perfectly because some people just have like, whether it's like magic or karma or luck or guardian angels or whatever, like some people, they just are anti-gravitational, and you know, it's not on us to make sure that they are like weighted down to the earth like the rest of us, you know? Like we should just be like, holy shit, what do you know that I don't? Can you teach me how to do that? And just like kind of stay out of the way while they kind of like tumble untouched through life while we're just like, oh my god. You know, but it is so much easier and softer and gentler on your nervous system when you're just like, whew, I would not enjoy going through that myself, but I can choose differently, and this is what I am going to choose, and this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to allow them to have their perfectly dysfunctional, beautifully flawed human experience on their own time. And if you can handle watching that, cool. If you can't, you can walk away, but, you know, like, it's kind of like helicopter parenting where you're like micromanaging and just like trying to like control, manipulate, predict and like perfect everything instead of just being like, okay, well, this is how I want it to go, so I'm going to do this and then I'm going to allow it to unfold however it's going to from there, and just kind of like be done with it. So to kind of get into like more of the goddessy stuff, like what I really consider to be a true goddess, or like high feminine, or like if we're talking about a god, high masculine, I think that the biggest piece is play. And like this is kind of like my own personal journey right now, is like just rediscovering play as an adult in really deeply nourishing ways, because that's like the number one thing that's really been missing from my own personal spirituality, is not only allowing myself to play, but really like embracing it and making that a priority and really pursuing that. So when I think of gods in, especially, let's say, like Greek and Roman mythology, I feel like a lot of the gods were trickster gods. Like they were always like coming down to earth and pretending to be other people and kind of like meddling with and knocking up and procreating with humans, right? So that's kind of what I see this human existence to be. Like, it doesn't make sense that our myths would involve gods coming down and playing with humans, because they're totally bored with like messing with the other gods, unless there was like an element of truth to that. And so whether that's true for you or not, you can take it or leave it, but in the paradigm that I feel like I exist in, really embodying that inner divine feminine allows me to not only create like a goddess, but also just really like enjoy, like whether it's like fucking with people, which actually gets boring pretty quickly because humans are pretty predictable. And so since I've been like exposed to like masses and masses of people, I feel like, oh my god, this is like such a boring game. Like I've already done this a million times. So honestly, it's like more fun to like play with my own mind, because then like playing with myself is kind of like limitless, because it's so much easier to manipulate my own thoughts and my own patterns and my own like programs and things like that. So for me, that's really juicy. And so it's like really a fine line between work and play right now, because not only is there a lot of magic in my work, whether it's a little bit more hidden, or it's like definitely just like in your face and I'm like, we're doing a ritual because it needs to like snap you out of your mundane human existence and like launch you into the divine. Or if it's just like, well, you call it manifestation and I call it advanced sex magic. So, like, I don't think that I know enough to really get by on my own skill sets and ideas and things like that. So I get inspired by mentors, and I really value mentorship. But as of the last couple of months, I decided that I'm not going to especially hire, but I'm also not going to keep company of mentors who don't know how to play. So, and this can look in a variety of ways. Like some people have like very free, expressive, childlike, innocent play. Some people have like some really fucked up, dark, sexy, dirty, hot, very adult play. And in my book, since I'm starting to feel really safe with both, both are actually quite equally appealing. So I like to have like a balance of inspiration and nurturance and skill building and collaboration. But I would encourage you to explore this idea on your own and see what not only play looks like for you, but the types of people who can mentor you in your play. Whether it's if you're really into art and creating, if there are people who are kind of like highly skilled at the type of art that you enjoy creating, or whether it's literally like dancing and expression, if you like more structured things like dance classes, or more unstructured things like ecstatic dance and things like that. I would just encourage you to like pursue and set aside time to prioritize play. So that's the biggest difference with invoking your inner deity, or really just embodying your inner goddess, is one, acknowledging that the human existence is intentionally flawed and enjoying that. Like, it's like the whole salty sweet thing. Like, I am kind of a sick person, I'll give you that, but I've started to enjoy pain in a different way, because it is like a roller coaster ride. Like, I don't really like going fast in one direction, that feels like riding like the monorail or something like that. But a roller coaster has the ups and downs, and that's what makes like your stomach lurch, like being in love or needing to throw up. And so there's a part of me that craves that extreme, like, oh my god, I'm gonna shit my pants in a foreign country. Because, like, one, it makes an interesting story, and two, that's not something that I do every day, like, knock on wood, luckily, you know? So, I am very human in that way, where I kind of crave and enjoy the extremes, and I've really come to a point where I can not only, like, forgive myself, but also give myself a deep amount of permission to just really be there. And so, okay, I didn't want to leak this, but I do have a webinar coming up on permission, and it's not necessarily about like asking permission from other people or giving permission to other people, but it's kind of like an internal process where you really get in touch with what you want, but also allowing yourself the desire to have that specific thing. Because I feel like this is one of the major disconnects, especially with women, but also with men, where what we think we want and what we actually want might be two different things. And I think the biggest divide there is allowing ourselves to want what we really want. So I'm not going to get into that too much, but I am curious if you have any reactions to these ideas. If it resonates for you, I would love to hear about that. If there are specific reasons why, like, you don't jive with this, I am super curious about why. So I would love any feedback, whether you want to do that in the comments or reach out to me personally. And you know the routine. You can either message me on Facebook under Nicole Crane, or in my group on Facebook, Nicole Crane Coaching, or you can email me at nicolecranecoach@gmail.com. And I hope to see you next week, because I've got some really exciting stuff cooked up. So sending you lots of love. Mwah. Thank you so much for joining me today. Bye.